I'm very happy to be invited to talk about the Danish ARC project. It's a pilot project, and compared to what we have been presented for here today by John Cole, for example, it's a really tiny project, I must say. But we want to evaluate later on, first of all, can we do it like you have done it here? Eliminate PRRS by a low, close and modernized program. Can we do it in several herds? And if we succeed, is there an opportunity to go further on with other herds? But as you will find out, it can be challenging enough, even though we don't have that high number of herds. You're very familiar with these 5 steps. You use them all the time, I guess, in the US. We just started to begin to use it. When you used to come as a practitioner to a farm with a PRRS problem on a single farm, we often want to go direct to the herd-specific solution and implement the solution and then follow up on it. But when you have several herds in a project, you can't do it that way. We need to know much more about the status of all the herds in the project. In this project, there were different categories of herds. In this area, there were sow herds with active PRRS circulation, and they, of course, they wanted to control and eventually also eliminate PRRS to avoid rebreaks in the herds and also to achieve PRRS-free status in the SPF system. Then we had some chronically infected finishers. Actually, at that time, they didn't really know what's going on. They were just producing, and they knew they were getting first positive pigs. But in the end, they want to also be a part of this and reduce the spread of virus, because these finishers were actually getting the pigs from the sow herds that were positive. So to get negative pigs, they also had to reduce their own shedding of virus. And then we also had some PRRS-positive sow farms that were actually stable and weaning negative piglets. And of course, they wanted to avoid being infected from the other farms, but also sell pigs out of the door that were PRRS negative. So the goal for all was to eliminate PRRS virus from this peninsula. And why would we want to eliminate it? I've been asked that several times, especially from US, why would you eliminate it instead of controlling? And the reason is quite simple. On the top chart, you can see some production figures from different herds that were recently infected with PRRS, and you can see the difference in production figures or what they lost in production on the time they had acute infection. In these farms, the acute infection lasted from 10 to 90 weeks. And although the production losses are very different from each farm, most of them actually experience a production loss. So that's one reason. And the other one is that if you can sell SPF negative piglets from a herd, you actually get 3 to 4 extra euros per pig. So alone that is a reason to eliminate PRRS. Before we started, we need to know what was actually going on. So this is geographic information system. We can get a map from an area, and here we're just looking at a 3-kilometer zone from a specific herd, and you can get that for PRRS, APP, and MHIO. So this is the chart for PRRS, and you can see in this area we have all kinds of herds, except negative herds. It's not there. We have positive herds, we have a few herds that they're trying to eliminate, and then we have a lot of unknown herds. And unknown in this case means that they are not members of the SPF health system, meaning they don't know the status and there's no regularly sampling on the herds. In this case, we knew that they were all PRRS positive because they got PRRS positive pigs from the sow herds that were in the SPF system. So a little information we had. In this area, we have 2 basically 2 pyramids. So we have 4 sow farms. And the good thing about this area is that all the pigs that are born in this area, they stays in the area. And we have no pigs coming from the outside of the area, except for some gills to one of the sow farms. So here we have 2 sow herds that are connected with the same 2 owners. But this is the movement of the pigs between these farms. So one of the sow farms have a nursery. So some of the wean pigs go to that nursery on the other sow farm. Both the sow farms sells wean pigs to 2 different wean to finish herds with 2 different owners. So that is the basic pig movement. One of the wean to finish barns, he sells pigs to 2 finisher sites. And then the sow farm has another site where they have their gilt acclimatization, but also their own finishers are there. And actually also some pregnant gilts then go there and stay for a while and come back again. So this was really challenging. We knew that they were all positive, and actually we had virus circulation on all these farms. In the other pyramid, it was a bit easier. There were also 2 sow farms here, and again we had nursery here on both farms. The challenge here was that on one of the sow sites we had the gilt acclimatization for both the sow sites, and this acclimatization barn was inside the sow herd, and within that they vaccinated the gilts when they came in. And then the pigs from these 2 sites, they went to 3 different finisher sites. So when we got the idea to try to eliminate PRRS from this area, the idea came from this guy, Johannes Dahl, and he has really been he got the idea to the project, and he also has been really the driver of it. And this picture is really remind us all of the first meeting we had with the producers. So we had 10 producers in a room here. Johannes here is showing the status of the herds in the area. And even if you think it's a small area and they are all more or less neighbors, these producers, it was the first time they were sitting in the same room, all of them. They mostly knew the names of the others, but some of them had actually never been talking together, which is really strange in that area. It couldn't have happened 20 years ago. They would have known each other's barns. They would have visited each other and actually gone in there, but this was not the case. This was a meeting where I tried to both come up with a suggestion of the elimination plan, also presenting a possible solution, how we would do it, but also giving them the ability to really discuss. And there were a heavy discussion, and I think after 1.5 hours, Johannes was more or less prepared to give up. But then they started to come up with some solutions. They also came with some solutions themselves. And in the end, the decision was, when we left the room, that we would try to eliminate PRRS from the area. Some of the constraints we faced, and this was actually some of also the things that were brought up already at this meeting, was that, for example, the one pyramid, they were generally against sow vaccination. They were already vaccinating gilts, but they were not comfortable with sow vaccination. The other one didn't want to carry a PRRS vaccination burden alone, so if we wanted to do a low-close modernized program and exposed by vaccination, they didn't want to carry that burden. There will also be necessary to place pigs in different orders, meaning that these specialists do wean to finish barns. They couldn't get pigs as they used to, and they would have to depup some of the barns. And one of the finishers, actually one of the wean to finishers, he was already vaccinating. And he was very happy about that. So he was much more worried. So when we stopped the project and I have to stop vaccination, what would happen to my farm? I'm not really sure if that was a good idea. He was very against that. And there was, of course, some worries about the safety. But eventually we decided together to use a low-close modernized program on one of the pyramids. And then to pay for the vaccine, it was decided that all the producers, they would pay, in addition, 80 cents per pig until the vaccine were paid. So that was how the problem was solved. It was not a matter of how, as long as they were receiving vaccinated pigs, it was until the vaccines, all the vaccine was paid. We had to do vaccination also in the other pyramid where we didn't do a low-close modernized program. We want to make sure that the pigs in the finishing herds were vaccinated at the same time as we had vaccinated pigs in the other ones. So they also did that. And then we decided on the testing program to follow up. This was a general program we use, more or less you are familiar with it, with 2 times mass vaccination, and then start to sample when we wean negative piglets. And after a while we stop vaccinate piglets, but I will come back to its specific program. One of the real hard things, and you might think should not be that hard. This is a shortened up of McGregor rules. So this is a 10-point management program did some years ago. And if you stick to that, together with a vaccination program, you are able to control personal herd. It's very simple rules. You can probably not read it in large letters. You can see it in Danish, but it's actually also in both English and Russian, because we have a lot of foreigners, East European workers on the Danish farms, so we need to show it to them also. It's one of the rules, really important rules, and I think it also showed in the PhD from the NALS that one of it that we don't want them to hold back pigs for weaning quality. It's even harder than that, because as you can see on the picture here, this is a quite frequent picture you can take in Danish barns. We have today 16, 17 live born in most farms, and we know that no sow can take care of 16 piglets. That's impossible. They can take care of 13 and even 14 if they're good. So in many farms we have to make cross-foster sows up to 25%, and that also means that we have to wean some pigs a bit earlier. And if you have an off-site nursery and only drive pigs to this off-site nursery once a week, we have a problem. Then we will all the time be able to see weaned pigs in the farrowing unit. So one way to solve that, because we know that that's probably the biggest single risk we have to the program. Some have developed, for example, this solution. So now they only cross-foster 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And as soon as these piglets are weaned for the cross-foster sows, we drive them to the nursery. This works. What we did, the low-close modernized program we used for, in this case, was a whole herd vaccination. We started 1st of July, the mass vaccination, and we vaccinated sows, gilts, boars, and all piglets on the farm. So on this south side with the nursery, we vaccinated all the piglets in the nursery, and then we vaccinated piglets down to 1 week of age. Then for the next 3 weeks, we vaccinated pigs that were between 7 and 12 days. So you had the pigs that were born here that were less than 1 week, the week after they were vaccinated. And we did that until 4 weeks later, where we had the second mass vaccination, where again we vaccinated sows, gilts, and boars. And then we stopped all vaccination on the sow farm. We had no more vaccine on the sow farm, but in the nursery, so the pigs that were born here and when they were weaned, we start to vaccinate them after weaning. So in the end, we vaccinated in total 20 batches of piglets born from 1st of July. Stopped the vaccination of piglets late September, and then we started to test negative batches in the all-in, all-out sections. We had a special problems. The two, especially one of the wean-to-finish barns, were not really built for this purpose. So they had all-in, all-out by room, but all the rooms were more or less connected. So what you see here in green is the nursery. And to get, for example, into this room, you had either to go this way or through one of these two barns. And to get the pigs in here, they had to pass this one and this and this. These 4 rooms were also connected, so it was obvious that as soon as we started to wean and have no vaccination, we had to depup this side. So it was done like this, emptied, and then we started to put in pigs again, negative pigs, and emptied these last rooms before we put in pigs. And this plan actually worked. I think we more or less also ourselves were a bit surprised about that, but it was quite simple. Unfortunately, this farm is now positive again, but it's not due to that. But this was a plan that worked. For monitoring, we start to test all sites in all rooms, 5 pigs per room, an age group supposed to be negative, and we start to test them by PCR and ELISA. On the south side, where we had only late nursery positives, we depup that 2 batches, and then we start to test sentinel gills and 20 pigs at the end in the nursery, also by PCR and ELISA. And the finishing sites, we only did monthly testing by 20 samples per site. This was the map as it was initially, 1st of July 2013. And you can see almost everything is red, except that we have 2 positive, stable south sites. So that was okay. This is some of the samples we took from the LCH farm. This is the PCR and ELISA results. It is only shown here as the 10-week-old piglets. And in the red bars you can see PCR. And we have 10 blood samples per time point, and the PCRs are pooled in 2. So this is 2 pools. So if both pools are positive, it's 100%. -8 here is 8 weeks before we start the low-close modernized program, and 2 weeks is number of weeks after we stopped piglet vaccination. So we have two batches here that are actually still vaccinated. Then you can see here 17 weeks later we have no PCR positive, but we have 10-week-old piglets that are actually positive in the IDEX. And these turned out actually to be a bit of a problem later on. These pigs ended up in one of the wean-to-finish barns, and he didn't really stick to our 10-point management program. So they stayed there until October this year. And finally, to get rid of it, we completely depuped this farm. This is the wean-to-finish site where you saw the animation before of how we moved pigs. And it looked quite good. What we can see from that is that we have maternal antibodies until 6 weeks of age in most batches. Then in one case, we had some positive here at 8 weeks. I think that's a false positive. And also this one, I guess. But you can see here we had one here that is 100 PCR positive. And they already from that batch where we had some antibody positives. So they ended up here. So in June this year, 1 year after the start of the program, it looked very nice. Now we have most of the spots green. We still have 2 orange here. Just after this was also negative, and this was the one that we depuped here in October. But more or less at the same time, we found out that this one was now positive. So we still have one farm in the area where we have positive pigs. So I don't know what we do there. Everybody is now really nervous because that's the only positive farms in the area. And I'd hope that we'll be able to get these pigs somewhere else. But the finance, I don't know where that would come from. It costs a bit to rent a barn. Just a few production results. So this is from the LCH farm, and you can see where we started here, June 2013. And it has been quite stable on both live born and total born. You can see there's a small break in the curve here, and then they increased, and it looks quite nice. But the same break in the curve you can see much more easy here. So when they started, and actually with this spot, it was the first time they were above 33 weaned piglets per sow per year. But we were here 33.5 almost, and then there was a small drop here, probably again this one batch that bothered us. And now it looks really nice with 35 weaned piglets per sow per year. So the program works certainly with a double mass vaccination. It was a really efficient tool. We reached a negative status after 84 days in the breeding herds and 154 days in the nurseries. And then, of course, took some time before we had the finishes negative also. We can also know now that we really need to test frequently. I think you're all familiar with that. But really monthly testing of all these of supposedly negative barns is really essential to find out when we have a positive batch. The positive batch that turned out to be a problem for us later on, we identified that actually found them PCR positive before they were antibody positive. So we already knew that this one batch were positive. The big mistake we made was that we kept this batch on this peninsula. Of course, knowing today they should not have been out. I think if we did that, if they were sold already in January 2014, the map I would have shown from June would have been all green. Most of the herds have actually achieved SPF status today. So all in the BP pyramid has SPF status. The HM breeding farm is supposed to get it this month. The sample has just been taken. So we are close to ending up there if nothing unfortunate happened. It's really a collaboration between a lot of people. As you see again, Johannes Dahl, I want to mention him. He has been really a driver of this, and also when we had negative results, sometimes when you are supposed to have a positive results is actually negative ELISAs, but when you have positive ELISAs or even isolation of virus that come up, it's really important to not only go to the farm that has this result and explain what's going on and encourage them to go on with the program, but also explain to the other farmers in the area what's going on. And now we have a positive result. What does that mean for me? Because they all start to get nervous, and before the rumors run too fast, that's important. The farmers are essentially here. They did all the work. So these guys, they took all the spanking. They did all the work. I just helped to make the plan and follow it, and then Jose helped us to set up all these nice graphs to show what was going on. So I think we're successful if we evaluate on it. We can say today we're sure that the program works. There are some rules you need to stick to, and if you don't follow them, you could easily lose something. And then the question comes up if you then should go on. So when we're successful, should we eradicate the rest of the farms? For example, in their practice, they have most of the pigs farms on Funen. And I'm not sure if you ask Johannes here, So should we go on a big scale? I'm not sure what he will answer today. It's been sometimes it's taken his sleep at night.